I've got three incredible executives who are going to join me on stage one after another, and we're going to talk about how the requirements of the pandemic have opened up really incredible new ideas and initiatives for new revenue streams, and of course through it all the technology that's helping to empower it. So we're going to get started, and I'm excited to bring to the stage Paul Macaluso, President and CEO with Another Broken Egg. Super excited to dig in with you this morning, Paul. I'd love to just start with kind of the quick summary of the pre-pandemic business model, right? Any off-premise business at all, and what sort of technology were you using to support it?
Yeah, so 15 minutes, yeah, so we'll keep it pretty brief. So our company, Another Broken Egg Cafe, pre-pandemic, we had about 75 cafes, mostly in the Southeast. It's a brunch concept, so we're open 7 to 2, and it's full service. We have full bars and everything. So to-go was not a big part of our business at all. It was pretty interesting when I joined the company in November of 2019. I asked, well, what are we doing for off-premise? It's such a big part of other brands I had been with previous to joining this company. And I was told it's about 2% of sales, like 1.5%, 2% of sales. I'm like, wow, that's pretty low. Well, what do we do? Well, nothing. It's just basically when people call the cafe on the phone when we take an order. I was like, holy cow. But the brand was growing. It was growing traffic. It was growing in sales. It wasn't something that we thought we needed to do. And so it wasn't a real focus. And obviously became a focus when the dining rooms got shut down.
Sure. So what did you roll out when you started launching off-prem?
We went, after the things we could do most quickly, which was going with third-party delivery companies. So we quickly, because of previous relationships I had, we were able to get up and running with DoorDash within a week, Uber Eats within a few weeks, and then we launched online ordering through Olo. And again, I had previous relationships there. They were awesome to work with. It's pretty funny, even like getting like contracts reviewed, which sometimes takes a month or 2 months to go through. We were getting those done in like 3 days, right? Because you've got to get this part of your business going. So we were able to launch online ordering with Olo within like 5 weeks. And I had done that at a previous company, and it took us like 9 months.
Yeah.
So, we were obviously very laser focused on getting this parts of our business up and running.
So give us quickly now the snapshot of today, right? What does the off-premise business look like at Another Broken Egg? Percentage of sales and the technology that you're using to support it?
Yeah, it's been incredibly transformative for our business. It is now, on average, the average cafe does 10% of sales, but it's been 100% incremental. It's added over $200,000 incremental revenue to our cafes, and so we thought, okay, it's a pretty big deal. It's going well, but as soon as dining rooms open, it'll go down. Well, dining rooms open 25%, 50%, 75%, and it kept growing and growing, and it's still growing. So all of last year it continued to grow. We have some of our cafes that do over 30% of sales through off-premise, which is just incredible.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It's been a huge change for us and very profitable part of our business.
So I know when we spoke about this, we talked a little bit about what did you learn when you had to pivot and go quickly and implemented technologies and new business models. What did you learn that you have been able to take forward with respect to how the team is using the technology, and how have you improved with your partnership with Olo?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of integrations. We also launched a new point of sale system through this time. One of the reasons was because we wanted to have the integrations and open API, and not to have a bunch of tablets in the cafes. You guys know all about that. So we were able to launch that, have the integrations there. We also so much tech has happened in the last 3 years that I've been there. It's just really been remarkable. We've transitioned our wait list program, so we don't take reservations, but you can get on the wait list. We were using one company. We switched to Wisely like 3 months before they were acquired by Olo, so that all worked out great. So we've changed that. So we're getting a lot more customer data. We're getting customer data now from that side of our business, from waitlist program, from online ordering. So we're getting a lot more data that is, that we own. And now the big focus this year is on, turning that data into actual insights that we can continue to refine our messaging, meaningful output for the guest.
Tell me a little bit about, you've now also rolled out Easy Cater, yes?
Yes.
How are you using that technology?
Yeah, so Easy Cater, was a kind of our way to get into it without, potentially launching our own system. We found that, post-pandemic or post-shutdown, that as people are trying to attract, people back into their offices, they're using a lot of catering to kind of help, incentivize that. And in fact, we're doing it because we have a remote work where we have people in our support center 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week now. And we found that, we really just weren't spending as much time connecting. It's harder to connect and continue that culture. So we're doing every 2 weeks, we're doing a catered lunch for everyone that's there in the office to kind of make sure we take a minute and have a conversation. And so we're finding that it's happening. So catering is a growing part of our business. There aren't a ton of options for breakfast catering out there that are high quality. There's some bagels and things like that. But if you want something like a brunch product, we found that we're a good solution there. And so it's a really rapidly growing part of our business. We doubled our catering sales last year, and we're putting a lot of emphasis behind that. So Easy Cater was kind of our first step into that. And again, working on the integrations with our point of sale so that it comes into one place. The manager doesn't have to go to a different place to see what the order is and all that. So we're working on POS integration there, just to continue to streamline operations as much as possible.
I love that. So I think what's particularly interesting about your concept as a breakfast concept is the ownership approach, the ownership philosophy of work-life balance, which is not always easy to maintain in the restaurant industry. Yeah. When you made it clear that online ordering, catering, and off-prem this wasn't going away for another broken egg. This was a long-term new revenue stream. How was it to bring the ownership community on board with that shift?
Yeah, I think there's always we're company-owned and franchise-owned as well. So there's always a bell curve in terms of adoption with different ownership groups. And so we've had some franchisees that were very eager and saw this as the future and excited, and some franchisees that were like, well, this doesn't work. It's going to take away from our focus in the cafes, and they were resistant to it. And so there's always a kind of bell curve of adoption, but we let people kind of see it working. We have company cafes, so we did it in the company cafes first, and we showed how it's working and how the impact. And like you said, the work-life balance. So we're open 7 to 2. So one of the great things about our, for the managers is they're going to be home every night with their families, and that's pretty unique in a full-service restaurant experience.
Absolutely.
And so the conversation is really about how do we maximize the sales during this time rather than extend our hours of operation. So when you kind of reframe that, you say, listen, we don't want to start serving dinner, right? To have to stay open. We don't have to extend our hours. We want to maximize the sales that we can do within this 49 hours a week time period. And so that kind of shifts their mind, say, okay, let's do everything we can to make the most revenue and profit we can. Most franchisees are all about that. So we get anybody who's not getting that we can kind of use other franchisees to help persuade them as well.
So as you bring new franchisees into, and I know you have a lot of growth plans, right? Mm-hmm. So as you bring new franchisees into the community, to what extent is off-prem part of that rollout program with them?
Yeah, so it's actually a big part of even our discovery days. So when we bring a prospective franchisees into the support center for a discovery day, they get to meet with each department head. We talk about the journey. We talk about how off-premise we weren't doing anything. We talk about now how big it is for us. When they tour the cafes, we show them all the systems we've implemented in the cafes, back of house, front of house, to support off-premise now. And so it is the expectation that it's part of every cafe from day one. When we started opening new cafes during this transition, we were like, oh, let's wait 60 days before we start catering. Let's wait 30 days before we start off-premise, because we want to make sure now it's part of day one. Like day one, we're doing everything. It's part of the training. It's part of the communication as we go into a new trade area and we're talking to new guests. It's part of multiple messages about how you can access the brand.
Okay, that's great. I love that. That's been, I'm sure, a real learning process for you and your leadership team moving through that.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah. So I know you're also seeing success with your off-premise adult beverage sales.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the success of that. And I know that this fantastic fun packaging has been a part of that.
It's fun. So yeah, it's like an adult Capri Sun, we call it.
It's right, the adult Capri Sun.
But yeah, we have a saying in our brand that brunch without alcohol is just a sad breakfast.
Oh.
So alcohol is a big part of our brand, is a big part of our heritage. We were founded right outside of New Orleans, so you see a lot of seafood on our menu, and you see a lot of alcohol on our menu, and we have full bars, and so we're permitted by the states, which is about half of our cafes. We are allowed to deliver alcohol if it's in certain packaging, and we have pitcher size and individual size. So we have a full array of everything we offer is available for delivery in about half our cafes. So if you go through DoorDash or Uber Eats or online ordering and you choose it to be delivered, you can select this. So it has been incremental for us. We found that drinks were typically left off the orders, as I think most restaurants noticed. Sometimes our coffee was being ordered, but a lot of times people are like, well, I'll just get my own drink, when I get the pancakes or I get the chicken and waffles. But we've got some unique beverages, and so we found that this has been an additional way for us to drive revenue, and we're hoping more states will allow us to do this as we move forward.
That's really fun. I love that. So tell us a little bit about the growth plans for Another Broken Egg. You have a lot ahead of you.
We have a lot going on. It's fun. It's a big year for us. I've been with the brand 3 years, and it's finally like take a breath and really see it come to fruition because we've had to do so many things that were unexpected over the last couple of years. But it's starting to pay off. Last year we had a record year in terms of bringing new franchisees into the brand. The existing franchisees are really happy with the sales and profits, so they're starting to develop again. The new franchisees are developing. So this year we're budgeted for 16 openings, so that'll be about a 20% growth in number of cafes for us. So that's a big number. We opened one yesterday, so 1 out of 15 to go.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And so that's a big number, and it's great. We're going to finish the year right close to 100 open cafes in the system, which is a milestone. I think I read a stat that only like 5% of brands can get to 100 or beyond. So it'll be a big milestone for the brand. Continuing to look for ways to leverage technology. A lot of it where we have 35 company cafes now. We're going to have 40 company cafes by the end of the year. We have a lot of employees, a lot of recruiting, a lot of staffing. So, a lot of our focus, in addition to guest-facing technology, is also on the HR side of things. How can we leverage technology to make it easier to hire, train, and recruit people? You
mentioned earlier here that you are going to be working with Wisely. Can you share just a little bit about some of the future looking with respect to managing customer data, your CRM approach?
Yeah, it's a big focus this year, just making sure we're, smart about how we have the data, what we do with it. We are getting, we have the ability to survey a lot more customers. We were, tracking, and we still continue to track Net Promoter Score and star rating and things through, all of the kind of social media platforms. But now, because we have the data, anytime someone gets on the wait list and has a visit to us, we can survey them immediately. And so we're getting a lot more surveys, we're getting a lot more insights into what's working in our cafes, what's not working, where do we need to make improvements. So that's a big part of our focus this year. In addition, how do we message to those people? We can see what they order, we can see how frequently they come. So then how do we market to them differently? If we know they're a person that likes our seasonal products, or we change our menu 4 times a year. If we know they're ordering these seasonal items, we might market to them differently than someone that always gets the same thing off our core menu.
Yeah, you've got your eye on the boozy brunch fan.
Yeah, of course, if they're ordering the alcohol, we know what to talk to them about.
Yeah, I love that. So before we wrap up, Paul, I think what I'd love for you to spend just a minute talking about, you're approaching technology, the lens of the CEO, looking out over the room. We have a lot of technology leaders in the room. What would you, how would you guide them as they move about the exhibit floor next door and they look for some of those really exciting opportunities to bring back to their CEOs? Like, what would you want your IT leader to be thinking about, looking at?
Yeah.
How can you help the folks in the room prepare for their CEO conversation?
Yeah. So I think a couple things. So the middle part of my career, I was in progressive marketing roles, and so I was in product marketing roles and brand marketing roles, and I was actually listening to the presentation earlier and the guy from Taco Bell. So I started my career off at Taco Bell. I was there for 10 years, and it was an amazing foundation of my career. They did a great job of developing people and training people. And one of the things I learned there in product marketing was, in terms of analyzing the effectiveness of any new product, you really look at it from the standpoint of the financial impact, the consumer impact, and the operational impact. So you're kind of looking at these things, all together. We had like a red light, green light. Okay, you can make a lot of money, but and the guests love it, but it's operationally too hard. You don't do it. So you talk about like those three lenses are always important. So I think if you're looking at technology from the same type of framework, that's one way to make sure it's going to check all the boxes. The other thing that I would say is, looking for things that are going to solve problems for customers, right? So like, where are the pain points for customers? For us, it's, as you guys have ever been to brunch, on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, is always a wait, right? You go to brunch and it's like 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Like, that's a huge pain point for us. So we're looking at how can we leverage technology to help alleviate those pain points for customers. Those are the things that we're going to put more emphasis on in terms of those types of.
That's great. That's great. I love think about the customer, put the customer first. Yeah, that's fantastic. Paul, this has been wonderful.
Great.
I really appreciate you sharing your ideas with us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next guest speaker that's going to be joining us is Brian Anderson, who is the Senior Director of Technology from Upward Projects Restaurant Group. Brian, come on up. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk a little bit about. You've got some cool technology, tech stack we're going to be able to talk about, and focusing on subscription in the space. So I'd love for you to start, as we did with Paul. Just give us kind of the thumbnail of what was the pre-pandemic business model that you guys had for anything that was off-prem. The wine culture at your restaurant is a huge part of what you do, and on-premise it has a cult-like following, right? You have wines that are proprietary wines that cannot be purchased anywhere, right? And I know there's a lot of pride in how closely you work with very particular wine growers across the globe to create something that is truly limited inventory, craveable inside the stores, right? And they were not available off-prem.
Correct. All right, so thanks for that segue. Prior to the pandemic, there was little to no off-premise for the Postino brand. When the pandemic hit, it was obvious that something needed to happen. The restaurants closed immediately, and the team focused quickly on launching online ordering, and they were able to do that with Toast Tab and just link it into our website and create that. But alcohol delivery was not a thing in the beginning of the pandemic either. That came out in a lot of states as the pandemic progressed, and people wanted alcohol at home, and they were getting angry and started asking politicians for help. And
they were having sad breakfast.
These people, we needed those Capri Suns a few years ago. So anyway, as Abby mentioned, the Postino brand is really well known for its unique wines and making wine approachable and accessible, and really helping you create your own journey with wine. And when the pandemic hit, we had all this inventory, and our guests couldn't get it because it's not available in store. So initially in the Phoenix market, they launched something called the Wine Wagon, which is essentially a Volkswagen bus and Twitter, and they would drive around and say, hey, we're selling our wine here today, right? And this is what we have available. And so that's how we got our wine out to the guests. We realized that there was an extreme demand for just the wine outside of the great experience in our restaurants. And so that led to the idea that sort of simmered throughout the pandemic to create the wine cult.
So there became interest in launching the subscription model, right? And I know you shared with me that there were some pretty cool requirements for what the features and benefits of that subscription model should be. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what those were?
Well, there's quite a lot. So this was actually the thesis of my job interview. I was contacted about this opportunity, and basically they said, hey, we're going to roll out a new POS system. We think we know which one that is, and we want to build this quarterly wine subscription product. Here's a laundry list of features we want it to have. If you can crack this nut, you can have the job, essentially. So the features range from everything you would expect, like manage my account, update my personal information, to things like that we still don't have in the product yet, which are like choose what kind of box I want, a red box, white box, or a mixed box. So along with all those features, the harsh reality came to the team that, look, this is what we need to develop in the initial version of the product to get it out to the public, and we're going to start with these features.
Okay, great. So what was, well, let's show everybody where you've evolved to today. This is the Wine Cult offering. This
is the Wine Cult offering, yeah. So what you're seeing, I think we've got so this is a box. You get a quarterly box. It's $60 for the box. If you buy it quarterly, it's a little bit cheaper if you buy it annually. It's $55 a quarter. You get 4 proprietary Postino wines that are themed around something that the marketing team and our beverage director come up with that speaks to the varietals and the producers that are going to be represented in the box. So this box is showing the opening act, which was our first release back in January of last year. We just had our 5th box release, and we're coming up on the 6th here in April. So you get a box with 4 wines. They're all unique Postino wines, and then inside's different information related to the wine. There's a book about each wine, how it was produced, what's involved in it, suggestions on food and drink pairings. There's always some kind of swag or aspect to it that makes it unique and interesting. We just recently did one called the mixtape, and there was actually a mixtape in it and a QR code to a Spotify channel. And, if this wine was a song, it would be this song. And so some really interesting, fun things to do to get people to engage with wine and try new things. And
the inside of that box reads, in progression from clear to blurry.
Yeah.
Wine goggles activated.
It does. Yeah, wine goggles activated. If you can see the back of my shirt, it says the same thing. Yeah, that's so that's the kind of attitude we're looking for. Like, you start your box. I mean, hey, you could do all 4 bottles in one sitting, like you see on the next slide, or you can enjoy by yourself or however you want. But it's really about this idea of making wine accessible, making wine fun, demystifying it, and keeping our guests loyal to the brand.
One of the things you shared with me that I think is so important is there's a tremendous amount of this is a cult, right? There's a lot of marketing and energy and creating experiences. You want people to have that type of loyalty. So you talked a little bit about how it's almost like a symphony of predicting inventory and allowing the marketing teams to start their iterative process before the product is really even ready. Talk to us a little bit about that from sort of a managing the supply chain perspective.
Yeah, so supply chain is actually our biggest limiting factor. So right now, our beverage director and the team in marketing that runs the actual membership portion of the Wine Cult is forecasting what our membership estimates are for Q3 and Q4 of this year to secure the orders for the proprietary wines from the vendors that could be in Europe, South America, North America, for delivery and arrival in the US to get to the restaurants in time to be placed in the boxes for Q3 and Q4. It's a little bit of science, a little bit of, okay, which way is the wind blowing? And we're also factoring into new markets. So by Q3 and Q4 of this year, we'll have expanded into 2 new markets. So, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
We're looking, we have very aggressive membership targets as well.
So let's talk a bit about the tech stack and how what we're sharing right now is the current architecture to support Wine Cult. I know some of the font can be hard to see in the back of the room. Talk folks through how you are using technology today.
Sure. So you'll see in the top in the yellow boxes, we have 2 entry points for the guests. You can go from winecult.com or our Wine Cult app, which is powered by Patronics. That Wine Cult app is essentially a hack of Patronics' loyalty platform. So That was one of the tools that we used to get up and running quickly and easily in order to check off a lot of those feature boxes in the initial request. You can't get access to the app, though, until you've become a member. So you initially sign up through the website in the current iteration, which is run on WordPress with a number of different products. So we're using the WooCommerce plugin, the Stripe plugin, and then we've coded a custom cron job that manages our payment cadence because we couldn't find, like the Paytronic subscription engine, for example, doesn't have a quarterly option or an option to define when the payment actually is applied. And so we had very specific requirements on when we wanted that payment to hit for the guest. All of that information then flows into Toast so we can stay in compliance with our liquor licenses because we can't deliver this to you. You have to come to the restaurant to pick it up. So you can use the mobile app to schedule a pickup just like you would an online order of food if you wanted to drive by and pick it up. Or you can walk into the restaurant and say, hey, I'm Brian, I'm here to pick up my wine cult box. They'll grab one of the Toast handhelds at the host stand or at the bar or wherever. They'll type in your phone number, email address. They'll ring it up so it's charged. So it depletes inventory because all of this stuff is flowing through our supply chain and our regular inventory process. That transaction is offset by a reward that's in your Paytronics account since you've already paid for it up front with your subscription, and you leave with your box.
So I know you're on a journey now, right? Let's share the in progress and how you're evolving into a current state, I would say.
Yeah, so we're in the design phase right now, the next iteration of the product. We're switching from a wine cult app, which we could talk for 15 minutes about why it was currently the wine cult app and will become the Postino app, but we'll just quickly jump to, we're moving the wine cult app to a Postino app so that any one of our guests can use the app to order, but certain features will be only available to wine cult members. And this is because Paytronics is enabling new features this quarter that will allow us to do that. The Wine Cult website is evolving to a more agile technology stack. We're removing the WooCommerce plugin, we're removing the cron job, and then we're utilizing some new Stripe APIs to manage the payment process and the recurrence of those processes, as well as some of their dunning features to help with people who have expired credit cards and things like that. That will still all flow through to Paytronics, where the main CRM is, where the email marketing, SMS, and push notifications go out to the members and then flow again through Toast to the in-store experience for recording the transaction and managing the inventory.
Okay, great. And then what does the architecture in 2023 and beyond look like? So
this is where we're really setting the foundation for scale. The new website's going to be built with modern enterprise level architecture and solutions. So still using Paytronics and Stripe, but leaving WordPress, moving to a headless infrastructure with contentful, version control in GitHub, so we can have multiple people coding on the platform and working on different features at the same time, using the Next.js framework and Vercel for hosting and security. And then all accessible either through a website or a desktop mobile app, et cetera.
Love it, it's great. So talk to us a little bit about some of the features that the customer, the guest, will be able to enjoy in this future state.
Yeah. With this new tech stack, we're going to be able to add more features, like I mentioned before. We have a vision where a guest is like, "Hey, I love the wine cult, but you give me 2 red bottles every quarter, or 2 white bottles every quarter. I'm only a white wine drinker or a red wine drinker or whatever." So we want to make an option for that guest because we don't want to say no to anyone that wants to enjoy our wine. So we hope to have that feature soon and then build that into the inventory and forecasting process. We've recently launched Swag, so we've got an online shop that we're going to integrate with this, and then the next holy grail to crack is mail order, so that you don't have to come to a Postino location to get your wine cult box. Anyone in the country, anywhere, can get a wine cult box.
Fantastic. And is it the case that there will also be some in-store, in-restaurant experiences that you'll be able to enable with the new architecture?
We have done some, so we do, part of your membership includes monthly hookups. So you get, we sell wine, retail wine in our restaurants. It's a curated selection of wines that are unique, hard to find, or what our beverage team considers like, really great nuggets. So when you come in, you can utilize your membership to get a discount. It's an evergreen reward anytime, 20% off of what we call the bottle collection. We also provide a monthly hookup that it changes every month. Consistently, due to demand and feedback from the members, it's turned into a free wine, glass of wine. But we've done things like free brunch items, or we're also known for our famous bruschetta boards. So we leverage those functions through the app and through the Patronics Toast integration to enable in-store experiences.
So Brian, to come full circle, thinking back to when you were going through that rigorous interview process and all the work that had to be done, what are the metrics of success for this program that the organization has been able to enjoy today?
Well, in the first year, our membership target was 3,000 members, and we surpassed that in the first year. We're looking to double that this year and expanding into new markets. So every location we open in a new market opens with the wine cult. We hope to continue that growth.
It's fantastic. Congratulations, Brian. This has been great. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Anderson with Upward Projects, and I do believe there's some fun swag stickers out there for you. Please enjoy Wine Cult. And we're going to move right into our third guest here in our Storyteller series. I'm excited to welcome to the stage to join me Dan Mesches, President and CEO with Sprinkles Cupcakes. Dan, please come on up.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to dig right in. We have a lot to cover. Give us kind of the summary of Innovators at Heart here. Perfect. Innovators at Heart for Sprinkles Cupcakes.
Yeah, listen, for us, it's always about innovation. And that innovation can come in many forms. It's innovation to tech, it's innovation to flavors, it's innovation, frankly, to our balance sheet through this process and through making it through the pandemic. And through that, too, it's figuring out how to have even more fun with something that, let's face it, is fun, right? You eat a cupcake when you're happy or it makes you happy. So that's a pretty good base for us. And we love coming up with great flavors that are tied in with iconic events, whether it's Game of Thrones or Royal Wedding or whatever it happens to be, or Flaming Hot Cheetos, actually, too. So
yeah. So pre-pandemic, a quick thumbnail, right? Tell us what the off-prem business model was like for Sprinkles.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, basically, it was more of an impulse buy. And most of our business was coming through walk-in business, not as much on the pre-order side, which meant that we would have a lot of waste in a day. And we changed that now so that basically 97% of our transactions are digital, and whether that happens to be through our kiosks that we can talk about more that we put in our bakeries, or whether that's through Olo, third-party deliveries, Shopify, that really has changed the dynamic for us.
Yeah, you can really see walk-in was 65% of the business, and today is 41%. A lot of growth in some of those other channels. So how does someone who needs their sugar fix, how do they get a Sprinkles cupcake today? Tell us about the means that they can get this delicious product.
Sure, a lot of different ways. If you're here in Vegas, right now, Vegas is a ghost kitchen. So you could get that by going to the airport. And I hope some of you went by some of our ATMs in the airport. You could get that by ordering from our app. Or you could get that by ordering on our Shopify website for D2C and have that sent to you next day. But the biggest thing is what we really try to do is make it easy, right? Make it as frictionless as possible. And at the same time, also make it as personalized as possible. And by personalization, I mean things like if you want your picture on a cupcake, you can have your picture on a cupcake. and you can have it right away. Back pre-pandemic, if you wanted something like that, we always sent messages. We always allowed for graphic images, but they had to be resized. Now it's just on your phone, and you can do it very quickly.
So talk to us a little bit about the online ordering. You have a pretty successful online ordering and then easy just pick up and collect that business, right, with the customers.
Yeah.
I was really intrigued when we talked a little bit about, is there a need to authenticate the customer when they're coming in to collect those Sprinkles cupcakes? Because I don't know about you, but man, I might be slipping in the back door for those. They're delicious.
Well, there's a few questions in there. I'll start with the authentication, though. We do not. And our thought on that was that let's not make it an issue until it's an issue. And we have had no problems with this. Now, part of that is because of how we remodeled the locations, and we can talk about that a little bit. And the slide that you see up now is a rendering of San Ramon, California, in the East Bay, which is one of our newer locations. That was also a bank cafe with a partner that we have up there. But if you're familiar with Sprinkles, you know that initially there was basically a piece of glass in front of a very open case. And with the pandemic, we changed that and just made that feel a little bit more secure. Glassed in, you can still see in, you can still get those that great view into the cupcakes. We also added digital screens. And it seems easy, right? But we were of, no, we're not going to do that. We don't like that image. And obviously, we've changed on that. And what that does is allow us to make changes on the fly, obviously. You folks know that. It also saves us, 25, 30 grand every time we want to change a static menu. And it allows us to quickly put up LTOs or whatever kind of promo that we want to do. And it's also that image that keeps on getting burned into your head. So you have the image on the website, you have the image on the app, you have the live image in front of you, you have the image on the kiosk. And most of our guests, we are about 75% female, and of that group, the biggest group is 25 to 35, and then on either side, we're exactly equal. So most of our guests are used to seeing an image on a phone, and just react very well to that.
Yeah, you've got some tablets here on the counter. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about your journey with kiosks?
Yeah.
Because you've learned a lot and evolved the way that these are laid out in the stores.
So those kiosks are from Byte. Brandon, I don't know if you're out there, but just a great partner. We've got a bunch of them. And when we first started during the pandemic, we were trying to figure out how are we going to get service that's safe for our team as well as for our guests. And we first used QR code and order off your phone. But we, like many of you out there, found kiosks. And initially they were on a stand outside our bakeries. Then we moved the stand inside our bakeries. And then we've gone to a full remodel where we're almost done across the board, where they're integrated into the counter. And that's made the most difference. It doesn't feel like a cheesy add-on. It feels like it's part of the experience. And in that experience, that's enabled a few things. One, it's a 97% adoption rate, 98% depending on the month. Two, it's allowed us, frankly, easy upsells, and our check average is about $3 higher than it was pre-pandemic off of people walking in. And then it also allows it for us to, what we're really working on now is perfecting the AI a little bit more to make sure, when we first started with it, we had to have the same add-ons for everyone. So even if you got a dozen chocolate chip cookies, say, because yes, we do cookies, cakes, chocolate candies, you name it, we've had a lot of baking mixes, we've added a lot to our line, we would still ask that question if you wanted more, which really didn't make very much sense, obviously. So that's an important part of what we do. And also what you see in here, you asked the question about authentication, and you see a pickup area. One, our employees can see that area. But it's much different than before. Pre-pandemic, we did have pre-ordering, but we made sure we made it as difficult as possible. You had to get in the line to ask for your order. We said you could cut ahead, and nobody's cutting ahead without creating a real ruckus. So we've redone our bakeries in that sense. We've also, in all our new bakeries that we build, we realized that although when the founders created the concept, a line was the greatest thing, right? A line meant popular. Now it's as frictionless as possible. How can we not have a line? So we make sure we have 2 doors. It's things as simple as that. We make sure we have these pickup areas. We make sure we have the kiosks, et cetera.
So for those fans of the product who aren't close enough to a location to get it, they are now able to get it through direct to consumer. Talk to us about this launch.
Yeah, this started pre-pandemic. Luckily, it took us over a year and a half on experimentation of, our product is fresh baked. And so it was tough for us to say, let's freeze this and ship it. So we found exactly the right process, or exactly the right amount of time in blast freezer, shelf life, et cetera. And that was a lot of trial and error. We also patented a container to put those in. We just didn't want the usual clamshell. We wanted something that's a little bit more special. We have a premium product. We wanted premium delivery package. So we have that. And we work with a third-party partner who ships this out for us, but bakes it with the batter and frosting that we provide. The other part of it was doing changing our website to Shopify, which allowed us many different things. But one of the things that made easier was when people decided where they were going to order from, we could now make it very clear, do you want national shipping because you're either geolocated in an area where we're not, or you put your zip code in, when before that was confusing to people. And that was one of our biggest roadblocks to success, because it was another decision point from people that they didn't really have to make. They would almost have to go to 2 separate websites.
Can you share a little bit about the packaging to protect this beautiful, we think about frosting, right?
Yeah.
And how important that is to the integrity of that opening moment. How are you protecting the product?
Yeah, so there's several boxes in this, but the PET tray that we put it in is the one that is patented. It snaps together top and bottom. It doesn't have a hinge. It forms a barrier around the cupcake. So even if it's not quite as frozen, it still doesn't get dented up. We also do package the decorations that we're well known for, the modern dot on the side. And at first, there were a few people that weren't happy that they had to put that on, but it makes for the best product. Then there is the outer box that is very similar to what you would get in a bakery. It's just heavy corrugated, so that the unboxing is great with a great message inside. You had me at sprinkles. And then we're obviously putting cold packs in there. We're putting it then in a insulated bag, and then it's going in another box.
Wow.
And in that box, we can do 2 dozen. We can do some of our other add-ons. We can do pupcakes, which those of you that have dogs may have ordered those before. We can do, by the way, leashes, collars, if anybody needs those.
I love that product line expansion.
Yeah. Baking mix and everything else.
Yeah. So kind of at the other end of the sort of very intentionally packaged and thought out, we're going to order a dozen or a couple dozen or more for a party, we have the impulse buy, right? You have the Sprinkles ATMs, which I just love. This is a beautiful unit. And I know Sprinkles has a long history with selling cupcakes through these means. What are you using today? And talk to us a little bit about this channel.
Sure. It was just our 11th anniversary last week on ATMs. And we have 2 types. We have those that are attached to our brick and mortar. Most of those are robotic, with a robotic arm. And then we have the picture that you see, and those are more a traditional vending machine. For these, we use a third-party partner, Propanga. They're a great group that do the logistics on this. It's not easy to get into an airport, a lot of you know. And I don't mean get into it from a sales perspective. I mean to stock with security and everything that goes along with that. We have about 50 of these now. You'll find these in, as I mentioned, here in Las Vegas, LA, Chicago, other airports across the country, as well as retail, college campuses. I do know of a story where a friend of mine's daughter chose that campus it was USC because there was a cupcake
Get
ATM
out.
there.
Oh my gosh.
UCLA asked for one soon after. That, so I did get that.
Oh, that's fun. So, Dan, vending has become an extremely attractive channel for the restaurant industry today. And I was on a call not long ago with some leaders in the technology space in restaurants, and they said, within 18 months, everything, right? You can already get burgers made through kiosks and vending. What can you share, because you now have celebrated 11 years, what can you share with the folks in the room that are considering this as a potential channel for them? What would be some of your words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always going to be a lot of mistakes made in this, and certainly the technology is everything, and trying to make it as simple as possible is very important. As I said, we have some with robotic arms, and then we have some that are traditional vending that are more used off-prem, but we're actually switching to these to some degree within our bakeries also. They're easier to stock, they're easier for the guests, they have bigger displays, they don't have the same issues with robotic doors. Not that it's a bad product, we're still using it, but again, just trying to make it as simple as possible. But in all these things we're talking about, I think, right, it's really about the partner. At the end of the day, and we talked about a few of them, or on our tech stack, our partners have been so important. Olo has been a fantastic partner to us. I had mentioned Shopify and Byte, and through that, there's so many arms coming off of that, whether it's Wisely for our tokenization, Mirrors for BI, a Narrator also for that. I'm sorry for anyone I'm not mentioning. There's quite a few, but making sure that you're partnering with folks that are really agile and can cater to your needs. Our needs have been somewhat different than a traditional restaurant.
Yeah.
And so that's taken a push or two, but even large companies, I mentioned Olo and Shopify, they have treated us just like a big customer through this, and that's been incredibly important to us.
So what's next? This is sort of that you're showing here the evolution from 2005 when you were founded to what's next for Sprinkles. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, Sprinkles is in our main growth phase right now. We began franchising last year, domestic. Our first was open outside of Salt Lake City. We will announce about 50 to 100 deals this year, 50 on the low end. We just signed an LOI for Korea, Malaysia, and Singapore, and done the product development agreement there, and are working with several other countries and locations here in the States. From a tech perspective, really figuring out how to heavily lean into AI to help us at our guest services, which is our call center, to make the flow more smooth, and also on making it easier to buy the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Dan, thank you so much for spending a few minutes up here with us today.
Sure. Thank you. Enjoyed it.